Lots of news today, guys. Let's start with page number 1, which is an ad now. Let's see. So first of all, PM is in Brunei now. Whenever PM is somewhere, you should see the geography and the idea where that particular place is. So read about Brunei, Indonesia, and the Borneo Island. So you should the physical geography part of this particular equatorial region you should be aware about. Then apart from that, a development in Bengal, a Prajita bill has been passed, and which basically talks about the death. I mean, in case of a death or in case of a victim which is left in vegetative state, as in case with Aruna Shaubag case. If you have not heard of this case, make sure that you read about this case, because that is a good case study for ethical dilemma, because that is the case where the idea of euthanasia, the law of euthanasia was laid down by the Supreme Court of India. So what is passive euthanasia, what is active euthanasia? So you should read about the Aruna Shaubag case in the Supreme Court. And she was also a victim of a rape case, leaving her in a permanently vegetative state. Then the Aprajita Woman and Child Bill, which basically amends which basically modifies. Just a second, why is it blinking? Yeah. So which basically modifies the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Talks about the fact that the completion of any such act, any such crime should be done within 21 days of the initial report, and the fact that a woman person should be investigation, or woman police officer should be investigating this entire issue, and the fact that they've also created a death sentence for these cases. So and if you want an extension, then you need a written statement from the superintendent of police or above, that why do you need an extension with respect to this. Then a special task force has been conducted, as I just told you. A special task force has been conducted, and there are also talks about the fact that any police officer or medical personnel who shows negligence in tests will also be put under the lens, and will be put to imprisonment without any parole. So all of these basically making the law stricter. So now see, there are two kinds of philosophies. Do you really need, there's something called the demand side and the supply side theory to this as well. Does strict laws really reduce the crime rates? So that there's altogether a different kind of literature on this, that strict crimes do not stricter laws do not do that. It is inherent in the society. The society needs to educate the people better. So this kind of dilemma is there, and you need to understand this kind of dilemma, and then present it in an ethical format as well. So this is a good case study for crime and crime against women as an ethical dilemma, that do you need stronger laws, or do you need a better educated society, or a combination of both of them is what is required. So you can read this. Then apart from that, interesting case study with respect to, again, something with respect to conflict of interest. The IIM Rohtak director has got a variable pay of 3.2 crores in 3 years. I'm not sure what kind of variable pay has he got, but there have been allegations against this. The internal audit wing is basically has written to and the Ministry of Education has written to the internal audit wing regarding the variable pay, and the institute has tried to defend, but at the same point of time, the issue is that how can someone be paid 200 times your basic salary. So just general things that you need to read. Then there was one major issue. Where is it? You can read this. Amid South China Sea tensions, PM in Brunei to discuss defense ties. So this is another article that you can read, and you can read about. We have a lot of these. this thing naval conduct naval this thing drills that we conduct. So you can read about these naval drills that we conduct, and one of them is Malabar, which is with US. Then we have PASIX, I think PASIX with Brunei. So there are no number of, you should be aware about our army drills. You should be aware about our navy drills, and you should also be aware about our air force drills. So all of these are, we have this with major players in the world, and there's one that happens in Arabian Sea, that once happens in Bay of Bengal. So you should be aware about these names. These are important, not just for your I mean names you can just put it across, but actually for your prelims you should be aware about these names. So read about that, research about that. Then there's one article that I wanted to show you. Where is it? Yes, the center sets up 23rd law panel for 3 years. So this law panel is basically every few years the government sets up a new panel, and this law panel will be from law commission will be from the 1st of September 2024 to 31st of March 2027, and it has its members. And basically this law panel, what it does is that it basically from time to time they are basically examining the laws and what are the suggestions that are there. Now the terms of reference to the 22nd law commission was basically to in the existing laws in light of the DPSP, to suggest way to improve and reform the legislation to basically implement this. So and it was headed by Karnataka Chief Justice, and now similarly a new way is being given, and the new law commission has been set, which will give it its own recommendation. Then apart from that, center all set to bring out policy on FPOs. So you should be aware about what FPOs are. It is basically something like something like a microfinance organization, but instead of just on microfinance, you are working on farmers. So small farmers coming together, and we have a beautiful editorial on this, folks. So small farmers coming together, and there are around 40,000 FPOs that are there, and there are 3-4 crore farmers which can be then added. And once they are added, then you can have this economies of scale and unison through which you can then work around. And we are going to talk about agriculture today quite significantly, because of explained page as well as an editorial. Now there are certain statistics, especially people from economics background and even non-economics background, you should be aware about how the land holding pattern is there in case of India. Now you should be aware that 34% of India's farmers do not have a land. And another thing, there's something called small and marginal farmers. Now what are small and marginal farmers? Any farmer who has a land holding up to 2 hectares of land, that is called a small and marginal farmer. Now 88% of India's farmers are actually small and marginal farmers, and they only control 56% of the 88% of the farmers are small and marginal, and they only control 44% of the land. So that means there are only 12% big farmers who hold large lands, and they control basically around 56% of India's land. So we have a very inequitous land holding pattern, which requires that the small farmers should come together, make an aggregation of sorts, and then basically do farming simultaneously, and have that economies of scale while farming, because the land fragmentation that has happened is too much right now. So one of the policies that the government is coming up is on the FPO front, but we are going to read more about it. Then comes your, yes, this is the article, Beena Agarwal's article, Reclaim the Farm. Agriculture must be technically sophisticated and institutionally innovative to be an engine of growth. Now people with econ optional, people with non-econ optional, you can take a printout of this, keep this as a part of your optional paper, as well as whenever you are doing agriculture in GS, you should keep a part of this ready, because you're going to use a lot of data out of this and a lot of analysis out of this article. So now Geeta Gopinath, you might have heard, was visiting my alma mater, my master's college, Delhi School of Economics, and there she gave an interview, and even in the Express she wrote that India basically needs around 60 million to 148 million jobs between now and 2030. So how are we going to create these 1.5 crore jobs, or 6 crore jobs? How are we going to create these jobs now? um, 148 means 14 crores, so 15 crores, so 6 crore to 15 crore jobs, how are we going to create between now and 2030? And she says that we need to we need to get people out of agriculture and move them towards other areas. Now you should understand the polity, or you should know the demography of India. Yes, we need this, and yes, she's also right that this is also being talked about by, if you've read about, people from econ optional would know that we read about Arthur Lewis. We will read further in Growth and Development what is the Lewis theory, which basically says that as a country develops, you need to move people from agriculture to manufacturing, and manufacturing to services, and people from rural areas to urban areas, and agriculture is typically low tech and subsistence agriculture. This was the premise at which Arthur Lewis gave his theory, and he got the Nobel Prize for that. But try to understand that agriculture right now is not a low skill or subsistence oriented only. If you see the kind of innovation that is happening in agriculture, and we are going to read two important articles on this. One is on irradiation, which is written by the Minister of Food Processing, Chirag Paswan, and we are going to read about explain page. So as I told you, today we are going to read a lot about agriculture. It's going to be a very important paper. So now agriculture as is no longer low tech, it's no longer subsistence. You find a lot of value addition in agriculture. For example, just see around yourself, there are so many things that are there in agriculture which are extremely expensive. If I'm not sure if any of you have tried avocados. So avocados are a freaking 500 400 rupees. So see the value addition that can be done in avocados. Then if you see blueberries, these are new kinds of milk that are offered, which are produced through biotechnological means. There's something called soya milk, then you have almond milk. All of them are really expensive, and these are basically you using biotechnology, and you're using technology in the space of agriculture to produce better commodities. So the idea we need to focus more on manufacturing and services is something which also if you read the economic survey, I've taught you the economic survey. We were going to talk about it, but in the economic survey also we talk about the fact that, see, we need to go back to our roots. We need to find methods how to make agriculture much more sustainable. We need to see that how we can absorb more labor in agriculture, because see, 70% of India lives in rural areas, and the fact that 60% of the income that people get in rural areas is from non-agricultural sector. That means that you are living in agriculture, but the income that you're deriving is not directly from the farm. So that means we need to go for value addition. We need to see that how to do other activities. For example, using something like poultry farming, or marine agriculture. So all of this value addition will give a lot of emphasis, and at the same point of time, we need to see that, and 46% of our workforce is also employed in the agricultural sector. So but the income remains poor. If we see the agricultural growth rate of the last 1 year, it was 1.5%, and the real wages in agriculture have remained stagnant for quite some time. So we need to transform our agriculture from the current basis. Now in the current sense, our agriculture is ecologically a disaster, especially in the northern India. We are using too much of water, the yields are too less. We are giving free irrigations and stuff, and because of all of that, the soil quality has gone down, the yields have gone down, but once we go towards better methods towards agriculture. For example, Gujarat had started using rainwater harvesting and micro irrigation structures. So once they started doing that, then the productivity had increased significantly. So if you see, if you go for micro irrigation, then the productivity of fruits and vegetables go up by 48 to 52%. So you're producing 50% more output with micro irrigation. Then same goes for soil. You need to have soil testing. You need to see, remember, if you remember, yesterday we were talking about the fact that we are going to introduce digital public infrastructure in the case of agriculture. So that is where you need to incorporate this. So when you're creating your articles on agriculture, make sure that DPI article is there from yesterday, this article is there, and there are two more articles that we are going to cover. So you create your bundle for agriculture, which is going to give you all kinds of summaries. Then apart from that, you can also have technologies, and then technology, and through drones and through your cell phones and multimedia patterns, you can again you can again introduce all of these changes in the agriculture, revive your soils, raise yields, create jobs, create profits. And as I told you, so this is the important portion. Today 86% of the farmers hold cultivate 2 hectares or less, occupying 47% of the operated area. So 86% of the farmers are small farmers, and they're basically operating 47% of the land. That means the top 14% of India's farmers are basically having 53% of India's land, and that is a major problem. And most of around 50 70 to 80% of them use informal credit as well, which is extremely high. So how do we increase the farm size? The only way to increase the farm size, A, was land consolidation. In 1960s, you would read about land consolidation when you're doing civil services mains prep. You have land reforms as a part of your curriculum, but it failed in 1960s. But right now what we want is that these farmers should come together and then start farming. One of the examples is Kudumshri. Kudumshri is basically in Kerala. You read about what Kudumshri is: women farmers coming together and creating leased lands, pooled labor, and pooled resources, sharing the cost and benefits. And you also get benefits and credit from NABARD for these activities. And what we see is that the output for group farmings are thriving in other areas as well, but we need to go into that, and that is where FPOs are going to be very important. So I told you I'll link these two articles. And then other areas like stocks, fisheries, and forests also offer huge amount of growth. In fact, 61% of the rural income come from non-farm sector, and we need to synergize non-farm linkages in agro processing, machine tools, ecotourism, and all of these areas along with this. So very important article. Please read this article, and along with this article you should also read, let me cover that article, a matter of food safety. Now irradiation is basically a technology where so you should be aware of the fact that there's something called as SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary norms. Now what are these sanitary and phytosanitary norms? That when an agricultural commodity or when any kind of commodity is exported from India, they should meet certain plant and animal norms. If they don't follow these norms, which are also given by something called as Codex Amelioris. Now this codex norms are basically minimum quality or the quality that needs to be maintained for agricultural products. Now because we need a decent quality of products, we need to ensure that they are exported well. And while exporting, there should not be microorganisms that should grow on them, and they should not be decayed. And I mean, for example, if I'm basically selling, say, lychees or mangoes, by the time that it reaches my destination, it should not become a mango juice. Or similarly, bananas. If I'm exporting bananas, I need to ensure that the bananas are do not ripe on the way, and they're spoiled by the time they are sent. So this is an entire food chain issue. But at the same point of time, there are a lot of additions in the sense, people use a lot of chemicals to do that. They use different kinds of masalas to do that. And once you do that, then again your products can be withheld, and your products might not be sold in foreign markets. So one of the ways is again using technology, using technology upfront. And in this irradiation technology, what it happens is that you expose food, whether in bulk or in package, to ionizing radiations in controlled environment. So you put ions, you basically ionize your food, and through that what happens is that the ability of microorganisms to grow reduces, and also it slows down the process of decay and fat loss. For example, you might have heard about something called trans fat. Now it's a chemical process, and why your products, your chips, and everything that you eat out of shelf has trans fat, because to increase the shelf life of any product, you have to add trans fat to it, so that it increases the shelf life. Similarly, ionizing is basically a friendly method, and it is not harmful for humans. By ionizing, you prevent the spoilage, and by slowing down the process of decay and minimizing the food loss, and also contributing to this sustainable supply chain without the need for chemical preservatives. And for centuries we have done that. For example, drying of fruits, vegetables, and fish under the sun has been used as preservatives. At the same point of time, our food products were banned, till the point that we signed this codex norms, and then we introduced these irradiation machines. But the issue is that this irradiation machines, which use basically cobalt, are extremely expensive. Each of these facilities costing 25 to 30 crores, but the government is setting them up. And again, you can use FPOs for this, and this will help us increase the food processing potential for India to much more higher. So read about all of this, and it's a beautifully written article. I'm not sure whether Chirag has written it on his own, but it's a good article. Then linked to this is another article. Which is on the explain page. Harnessing biotechnology for economic development. This is called Bio E3. So remember this name. This is a very important name. Can come under your this thing as well. It comes under your science and tech. Now what has happened is the center has unveiled Bio E3. Now this is biotech technology for economy, environment, and employment. Now basically, if you see biotechnology is what is basically manufacturing. The power of biotechnology, what we are trying to see, you are trying to use the power of biotechnology to develop manufacturing methods that basically mimics or replicate that are found in natural biological systems. So you are taking biology and making use of and making its industrial usage. For example, there is something called as synthetic. You can use bio. For example, you can have something like synthetic biology, bioinformatics. Now, what is bioinformatics? Whereby something you're wearing a device. If anyone heard about a company like Ultra Human, or have you heard about these rings that come which can track your sleep, and if you have heard about these patches that you can put on your arm, which will tell you what is your sugar level, what is your spike, and what is your how you are coping up with each kind of food. So yeah, Ultra Human ring. So I've been telling a lot of you, if you can really afford it, Ultra Human is extremely good. I'm not a proponent, I'm not a salesman of Ultra Human, but the idea of, and it's not just Ultra Human, there are 2-3 variants. There's a startup called as Fitter, which has come up with a heart ring, but a lot of these have come up basically to identify your own biology. And once you understand your biology, you know that what are the spikes that I'm getting in my blood, because if I'm eating something and if I'm not eating something. So once you know this, or once you know all of this data, you're able to come to a conclusion that what is good for your body, what is your body able to synthesize, and what is your body not able to synthesize. So this is again use of biology, and you are industrializing the use of biology now. So the idea of genomics, genetic engineering, we all know about genetic engineering in terms of food products, synthetic biology, bioinformatics, gene therapy. Read about something called as CRISPR technology, folks. It was asked last year in prelims. I think a couple of years ago it was again asked in prelims. So read about what is CRISPR technology, again use of biology. And then you using till now biology based solutions were only in medical science and agriculture, but now you are using it in artificial intelligence as well. You have computers based on biotechnology now. So you have synthetic clothes, and then as I told you, you have plastics, milk, fuel that are there. So you're using these modern technologies, for example animal free milk, or read about something called as lab grown meat, a meat that you will put in your mouth. You will feel that it's absolutely meat, but it's actually a lab grown meat. It is completely synthetic, and it gives you benefits of all the proteins and fats, and it doesn't give you the cholesterol. So similarly, you have chemically produced you have these chemically produced traditional plastics, which are an environmental hazard. But then you have bioplastics, and which are biodegradable. So these are again these bioplastics can be made from cornstarch or sugarcane. Then microorganisms can also be used for carbon capture. Now there are microorganisms which can absorb carbon dioxide from the geology and from the earth formation, and then break it down into other useful components like biofuels, and negating the fuel for storage. So basically you have so many usage of and this is also I think this area is called as blue biotechnology. Just read about it. If it's called blue biotechnology, I'm 99% sure this is called as blue biotechnology, but still read about it. And then India can benefit out of this, but we need to give a lot of emphasis into putting money into this particular area. It's going to be $2 to $4 trillion industry in the coming years. And we have similar policies in other areas, for example artificial intelligence missions, quantum mission, green hydrogen mission. We also need to envisage bio E3 mission, and have these several bio manufacturing hubs across India. And this focus of these hubs will be on bio based chemicals, enzymes, functional food and smart proteins, precision bio therapeutics, climate resilient agriculture and carbon capture, and futuristic marine and space research. So all of this is an important portion. Please read about it. Then okay, let's go back to our this thing, because we went with the flow. Yes. So now I'm going to brush through certain articles, because I again want to go to the explain page to explain you another article. Now justice delayed. Now we have talked about, as I told you, that there will be an editorial. Yesterday I told you there will be an editorial on this, that you have this bulldozer justice which is coming up, and this is an ethical dilemma again. This was started by UP and then copied by a number of states. And but now the Supreme Court had taken cognizance of this, that there cannot be a bulldozer justice, and there's nothing called quid pro quo in the criminal jurisprudence. You have to have due process of law. And then what you can do is, as I suggested you, that you could so to ensure that that due process has been followed, you can use blockchain technology to track that when was the notice given, and then when was the reply given, and what is the history of this entire incident. So this is something that needs to be taken up. This is not written in your this thing, but at the same point of time, the action that has been now taken up by the courts, and courts have now become protectors of you're seeing a phase in Indian judiciary where it is protecting the rights of the citizens now. And this is also seen in another article. So you can read this article. And then Manipur again, if you're not aware of what has happened in Manipur in the last 1.5 years, you should read about Manipur. And then you have there's a fresh round of violence that has started in Manipur. Now people who are new to these classes, to our classes, you should know that in Manipur there are two kinds of people that are living. One is called as the Maitis. These are people who live in the valley. And then you have the Kukis, and you have the Kukis and Zos, who basically live in the hill tribes. And there is a fight between these two people, the hill people and the valley people. Because the valley people got through the courts, they got this thing. Now it has been stated the ST status, and basically the ST status will give you the right towards jobs, and also the fact that the valley people have too much of representation in the Manipur's legislative assembly as well. So it is a Meiteis versus Cookies, and Cookies also have an affinity towards Nagas as well as Zo, and they also have a lot of cultural similarity to that of people who are living in Myanmar. So what the government is saying is, no, this is not an issue of our own governance. These are all insurgents coming from outside, but they are not recognizing that the entire machinery of the state has failed in case of Manipur. So you should read about what the Manipur issue is, and then and what could be the solutions out of this. And in Paralympics in Paris, we have got very good news, and you can use the name of these two people, these two athletes, folks. Please note the name of. We already know about Manu Bhakkar, but also note the name of Avni Lakhera, and there's another person. Yes, Sheetal Devi. So read about these two people and use them in your essay. Use them in your somewhere in your ethics, in terms of that how people come towards overcome adversities, and then they've started and they've defended their gold medals in Paralympics as well. So these are case studies that you can put forward in your examination. Then friends with benefits. Now this is again a story where the honorable prime minister is basically going to visit the city state of Singapore. And while the city state of Singapore, we are going to talk about digitalization, skills, sustainable healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and all of these areas we are going to discuss. At the same point of time, Singapore is a huge center for alumnus of India's best minds. So because it's nearby, and it has one of the highest per capita incomes, it's technologically very smart. So because of all these factors, it is a very important portion, and Singapore is a critical factor which is framed in India's regional policy. The Look East and then the Act East policy. Singapore is one of the prime locations for that. And at the same point of time, the issue of Chinese FDI in India, this is something. We need a policy shift, and we also can have better relations with Singapore, so that it can play a major role in terms of the FDI policies. So read about this particular article. Then I was telling about this article, the court sends a message. Now this is based on the recent judgments of the Supreme Court of India, and we have read about these judgments in the last 10 days, that how after case the Supreme Court of India has mentioned that in India's criminal jurisprudence, the bail should be an exception, and the bail should be a norm and jail should be an exception. And they have championed through number of cases, like the Kavita versus ED, and then Manish Sisodia versus ED. They've all mentioned that any kind of prolonged incarceration without trial is basically is something which cannot be allowed for. And they also say that we will uphold the values of Article 21 of the Constitution above all the other statutory rights. And even for that matter, this also applies to Section 45 of the Money Laundering Act, and also Section 52 of Money Laundering Act. Section 50 of Money Laundering Act basically says any statement made to the ED will be admissible in the court, but that is not a free mind. So the Supreme Court has basically disregarded that. And also the twin test that needs to be done under Section 45 of PMLA should also be there should be reasonable grounds to believe that there is a genuine case against the accused, and there is reasonable material collected during the investigation of that particular thing. And I want you to read, you can read all of this, but I want you to write this last paragraph down, because this is a beautiful paragraph, that the cause of constitutionalism can be subverted only if the constitutional can be subserved only if the constitutional court can proactively ensure the enforcement of their seminal edicts to vitalize a living constitution to fulfill the promise of the freedom and dignity for all. So write this entire paragraph, try to memorize it a couple of times, and then see if you can fit it in some form in some of your essays or not, or you can just modify it in while writing in some of your answers, and it will give a beautiful ending to your answers. So read about this. Then I'm not covering the new internationalism, which basically says that not just what has happened is, because the opposition has become quite vociferous now, and we do not have a one party rail that is happening in Indian polity. Therefore, what we are seeing is that you are seeing both the leader of opposition as well as the honorable prime minister both have an upcoming visit to US to basically show their outreach and building bridges, and then building on diasporas. The honorable prime minister is going, I think, on the 21st to 24th to September, and next week Rahul Gandhi is also visiting, which is good for Indian polity, which basically says that Indian politicians are going abroad and building those bridges, and whatever happens, India is going to gain out of this, whether it's with there's something called as overseas Indian Congress, or which is headed by Sam Pritota, or the government dispensation. India should win out of all of this. So you can read about this particular article. I'm going to go to the you can also read this article, back in medical curriculum, lesbianism as sexual offense, importance of virginity. Please read this article. Again, the changes that have happened, the derogatory changes that have happened actually. Then yeah, then these are two important other articles that you need to see. That World Bank revises India's growth estimate to 7% for FY25 from 6.6%, but at the same point of time, it also flags the fact that there is a lot of youth unemployment that is there in the country, and one of the issues is that the value chains needs to be worked, because there is falling share of labor intensive sectors. Now this is also given in this particular article, that India is experiencing sharp deceleration in job generating sectors, for example textiles, leather, gem, jewelry, marine products, all of them, where China has, after the COVID, China has basically reduced its footprint, but countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Poland, Germany, France have increased their manufacturing share in these areas between 2015 to 2022, whereas India has missed all these opportunities. But India needs to further get into these global value chains to enhance its potential and participate. But this is something that India has declined because of its policy barriers and other limitations. So this is something that we need to do. Then another article, households have started building back their financial savings. You can read this. And National Financial Info Registry Bill almost ready. If you want to read this article, we have already done this article. Then there's a district in UP called as Barech, where a lot of wolf attacks have coming. So that is where this article is there, and then this article basically talks about wolves and how they kill people, and what are the clinical approach to wolves. So you can just read this if you want to read it. But the more interesting article for me is this. OpenAI's Project Strawberry and promise of AI's next big breakthrough. Now let's read this. Now we already know about OpenAI. We are using OpenAI a lot. Now what is happening is that OpenAI is going to release its most powerful model between September to November, and it could integrate into ChatGPT 5. Which will have a new version of chatbot and virtual assistant. We already know about this thing. Now there was this secretive process that they're working on, which is also called as Project Q or Q Star, which is now renamed as Project Strawberry. Now this particular feature, which I am extremely excited about, is that it will have autonomous internet research, and it will also improve the answering ability of AI, and it will have similar capabilities of a human brain. So right now, yes, we still have to make some effort with respect to working with AI. We need to give it certain kinds of commands, and it comes up wrong when come in terms of when I give it mathematical questions. For example, I'm teaching mathematics in these days in university. So when I ask it mathematical question, it gets confused. But with time, what will happen is with all of this, with this large language model, and with this model, they will improve a lot at mathematics. That will happen, and it will project Strawberry will be better at math and programming than any other chatbot that is there. Then chatbots sometimes, as I told you, struggle with math, and experts think that it is because of inadequate absence of adequate mathematical information. But this is something that we are overcoming. And then we have high quality data which is being used now. Project Orion, which is being designed to outperform GPT-4, could use Strawberry and other kind of synthetic data. Now synthetic data is data which does not exist, but that you create. So you create this synthetic data, and based on this synthetic data, you basically test your models, and but at the same point of time, the AI models, the data sets could also have their bias and errors. So that is one of the issues. But the great Strawberry leap is that it is going to improve the reasoning, logic, and ability to carry out research and autonomously conduct experiments. So an exciting field of area of AI is coming forward. And then four major US policies that Trump would reverse if he is elected. So you can read these four policies, and that's about it in our newspaper. Yeah, all right. Yes, for me, that's about it. So thank you very much, folks. I will now see you today. For people with econ optional, I will see you today at 3, folks. Thank you very much. See you. Bye bye. I'll see you tomorrow.